Good morning. Welcome to your program Agenda here on Cignal TV's One News, Channels 8 and 250. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, welcoming you on this Monday morning. It's bright and sunny, and we are currently here in Lipa City, Batangas. And I do hope all is well with you. And it's how many days left? 15 days na lang ba? Or even less before the Christmas day. So I do hope you're preparing, and please join us today as we carry on with the usual concerns, but we will also soon be preparing for Christmas. Okay. Anyway, it's December 11, 2023. It's a Monday. It's sunny and warm. And a lot of people are complaining, bakit ganon mainit sa araw, malamig sa gabi? Well, we can ask your friendly weatherman to explain that to you. Today, we will be speaking with the General Manager of the Philippine Ports Authority to give you updates para sa inyong mga bibiyahe, para sasakay ng mga barko, etc. And those who will be traversing the Allen Matnog ferry crossing, we'll find out what you should prepare for, what you should expect. And after that, we will speak to someone who understands the concerns regarding the postponed, canceled, or otherwise blocked Christmas trip to the West Philippine Sea that happened this week or last week. We will find out what are the repercussions. Was that a good idea? Was that a bad idea? We'll find out. But first, let's go to our usual fare. Thank you to our Cignal TV subscribers. Please share the news, the good programs, the great programs on Cignal TV with your friends. And thank you to those who watch us via Facebook and YouTube. Let's now go to our daily starter from author Liza Terkhorst. And Liza Terkhorst reminds us there is so much more to this one incredible life than the sum total of our heartbreak. Pagsama-samahin man nyo lahat yung luha at pighati nyo, pati yung break up nung dalawang artista, hindi ko na masabi kung sino mga pangalan nila. So many people were affected. There is still so much more to this one incredible life. Okay, so appreciate what you have and be happy. Now, let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star. And today's edition, the front page, of course, expected Philippine ship damaged in Chinese water cannon attack. A boat commissioned to bring supplies to troops manning a grounded vessel at Atin Shoal in the West Philippine Sea suffered serious engine damage after it was blasted with a water cannon by the Chinese Coast Guard. Okay, yan po yung yan yung front page headline. At the top of the front page, the header, 5 Philippine universities enter 2024 QS Sustainability List. Nakapasok po sila because of their sustainability program for their business model and education. Meanwhile, Christmas convoy aborts West Philippine Sea trip. A convoy of civilian boats planning to deliver provisions to Filipino fishermen and troops in the disputed South China Sea aborted the trip yesterday after the constant shadowing by Chinese vessels, the organizer said. And related to that, Senate President Miguel Zubiri urges President Bongbong Marcos send Chinese envoy home because he has not managed to do anything to help resolve the problem or ease the tension? Suportahan ta ka, Senate President. The center photo of the Philippine Star, the Nativity of Jesus, is displayed on civilian vessel Kapitan Felix Oca, which canceled its Christmas convoy to deliver donations and supplies to communities in the West Philippine Sea and amid constant shadowing by Chinese forces yesterday. Can you just imagine what would have happened if the Chinese water cannon the nativity scene? Nako po, pati si Pope Francis kalaban yun na. Speaking of issues, Germany and France ask Philippines to fight EJ case. EJ case or extrajudicial killings in a joint declaration on the celebration of the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Meanwhile, after PISA, dismal score, DepEd deals with school bullying. The Department of Education has assured the public that it is addressing school bullying following a senator's call for stronger measures to protect students. And Meralco franchise split call decried. Okay, Federation of Philippine Industries yesterday decried attempts in some quarters calling for the split of the franchise area of the Manila Electric Company. In a statement, FPI Chair Jesus Aranza called on those attempting to disparage Meralco or make them look bad to put a stop to what he said was a counterproductive act. Meron po kasing congressman, humihirit, baka nagpapasikat, humihirit para raw hati-hatiin yung Meralco franchise. Ayan, barasuhan na. Okay, Senate to ratify 5.768 trillion 2024 budget. And NDF to resume peace talks with government while Porsche Philippines does their groundbreaking for the Porsche Center. We will now go for a quick break and we will go to our topics because we have two guests. Kailangan pong pagkasyahin ng oras. We'll be right back here on Agenda.
The Philippine Ports Authority or PPA is ending the year with a bang. From January to October this year, the PPA achieved a record-breaking revenue of over 21 billion pesos. This is a 30.2% increase from last year's revenues, which also set a record at the time. PPA General Manager J. Santiago said these increasing figures were the result of maximizing revenue streams and implementing measures to enhance efficiency. But PPA is still not in a celebratory mood as they prepare for the influx of passengers this holiday season. Over 1.4 million people flocked the ports last October for the barangay and SK elections and the Undas season. Is the PPA expecting more passengers this Christmas season? And how are they prepared for this? Let's discuss this on today's agenda.
J. Santiago is the General Manager of the Philippine Ports Authority. He is also a lawyer who previously held positions in various law firms. Santiago previously worked as Vice President, Chief Legal Counsel, and Corporate Secretary of the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, or PAGCOR.
GM J. Santiago, welcome back. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Good morning, Sir Cito, and good morning also sa lahat po ng viewers and listeners nyo. At happy holidays to everyone po.
Okay, well, clearly it's a good morning because what the video presentation pointed out is kumikita kayo. And that's good to know that the PPA, unlike past administration, puro na lang issues on corruption, poor collection, but you have record collections now, so congratulations. That's good for the country and for the government coffers. But what are your concerns now? Kasi hindi raw kayo tumatalon at nagsasaya. Mukhang naghahanda kayo sa sakit ng ulo.
Actually, Sir Cito, thank you very much po doon sa pagkilala sa achievement po ng Philippine Ports Authority ngayong taon na 2023. In fact, if I may mention po, yung figure na sinight kanina sa video, that is only for the first 10 months. May hinihintay pa po tayong 2 buwan ng November and December, so we expect na tataas pa po yun. But be that as it may po, china-challenge po natin yung buong organization kasi ng PPA na year on year. Talagang we have to break records. Otherwise, if we be satisfied po kung ano lang ang nagawa sa mga nakaraang taon, magsastagnate po yung organisasyon at saka hindi po uusad yan. Tama po kayo. In fact, for this coming holiday season, handa na po tayo. Doon po sa influx ng mga passengers po natin. We are expecting about 5.1 million passengers po na dadaan sa mga ports natin ngayong period ng December 16 to January 5. So
5.1 million?
5.1 million po from last year's about 4.7 million. So medyo ano po talagang challenge po at saka ang challenge po talaga diyan, Sir Cito, yung buti po sana kayo, regular po kayong biyahero. Buti sana kung konti-konti o atay-atay po yung dating ng mga pasahero. Kaya lang po, may bugso talaga yan. There are certain days na talagang bumubuhos po yan. I have been inspecting dyan po sa Port of Batangas natin. I'm sure you've experienced that also. Sometimes makikita mo yung mga bisperas ng mga okasyon or ng mga break. Ano po, talagang sea of humanity. Ika nga, talagang wala kang makikitang kahit anong konkreto, talagang punong-puno po ng tao. Yan, and we are trying to address that. In fact, ngayon pong darating na December 18, we are proud to inform everyone that yung pong expansion area sa Port of Batangas ay bubuksan po natin, gagamitin na, although hindi pa po i-inaugurate yan, para lang po magkaroon tayo ng operational exercise or soft launch. Kumbaga, from the existing po ngayon na 3,500 na capacity ng terminal natin, it will now expand to 8,000 passengers.
Per day?
Per day po. Ang capacity po niya, Sir Cito, at any given time, 8,000 po. So ang nakikita po kasi nating volume dyan po sa Port of Batangas, anywhere between 17,000 to 20,000 a day po. So
wow.
At any given time po ngayon, pag nabuksan po natin yung expansion area, that will increase po to 8,000 passengers at any given time.
Well, let me congratulate you and your manager para doon sa Port of Batangas. Pasensya ka na, medyo poor memory ako ngayon. But you know, no, I was in a forum, nagturo ako ng mga journalists and broadcasters sa Batangas City, coming from Mindoro and Batangas. And they were all praising yung nakita nila sa Port of Batangas. Sabi nila, sir, hindi na nakakahiya para na ngang terminal ng airlines. So mas maganda pa yata sa isang terminal ng airlines in several ways. So at least pinupuri maski na yung mga journalists and broadcasters.
Opo, in fact, I was just there po nung last week ulit. Nag-inspect tayo for that December 8 long weekend, ano? To make sure also that yung pong terminal natin sa Batangas is already geared up for the Christmas break. Makita po natin kung ayos ba yung amenities doon dahil mahirap po kung mag-i-inspect tayo, kinabukasan na lang. Mahirap na pong remedyohan, Sir Cito, yung mga yung mga aberya, halimbawa, o sira yung CR or may hindi gumagana pong mga amenities doon. No? So early on po, talagang pinuntahan na natin yan. And nakakatuwa nga po talaga. In fact, that leg po, no, kung nadaanan niyo na nga po yan, yung that leg from Batangas to Calapan, it is already a different experience po compared to years back. Ano? Of course, yes po.
Ngayon, what is to be expected? Because I remember just before COVID naman ito, GMJ, when we went through the port of Batangas to go to, saan ba kami pumunta noon? Papunta yata kami ng Boracay, so Katiklan. I remember kilometro ang pila ng mga truck sama yung mga kotse. What remedies or what system will be in place when we hit the December 15 mark? Kasi ang galawan yan, di ba, mga December 15? O gumagalaw na ngayon?
Well, ang talaga pong influx niyan December 15 or 16 po, no? Talagang when we do our statistics, we peg it po at December 16 to January 5. Yan po yung kino-consider nating talagang Christmas season o holiday season po na stretch, ano. So as always po, talagang yung sitwasyon po natin diyan at in any port po na talagang malaki yung passenger volume or vehicle volume, talaga pong nagko-queue up diyan, ano. Ang kailangan lang po talaga diyan is that yung pong magkaroon ng sistema na to make sure na walang singitan po yung mga pumipila. Ang nagiging challenge po kasi dyan palagi, every time po meron tayong operational meetings po dyan, ano? Ang sinasabi po natin sa lahat ng mga stakeholders dyan, hindi pipila yung whether tao or sasakyan kung tuloy-tuloy yung biyahe ng mga barko. At ang nangyayari po talaga, magkukuewing yan kapag kulang po talaga yung biyahe ng barko, no? Kaya po tumutukod o natitenga yung mga sasakyan kasi hindi makasakay sa barko. And we are coordinating sa Maritime Industry Authority pati po sa mga shipping lines that they should increase yung pong frequency ng voyages para hindi po tumukod yung mga biyahero.
Siguro suggestion na lang, GMJ, kung meron naman kayong mga nylon cords doon, yung kino-cordon off ninyo, mag-numbering na rin, mag-abot na ng number para baka mamaya mo may magsunto ka na naman dyan ng mga matatapang, di ba, sa singitan. Kung may number, para bagang sa hardware at sa Mercury, pag pumunta ka, wala ka number, balik ka sa dulo ng pila.
Tama po, Sir Cito. Meron na po tayong queuing system dyan at saka may police visibility. Pero masabi ko din lang po, and hindi ko nababanggitin kung saang area o terminal, kuminsan po may mga enterprising po kasi na fortunately sa ating pong investigasyon, hindi PPA, yung pong queue number, binibenta.
Ay, nako po. Okay.
Kaya po, challenge, ibang kwento pa po yun, ano? Pero of course, I think the only way na masawata po yun is that there should really be more visibility ng ng security personnel, police personnel to prevent that from happening.
At saka yung intelligence gumalaw naman, mag-surveillance at mandampot ng mga ganyan. But anyway, I know you're very busy man today, GM, kasi Monday, mabilisan na lang. Aside from Port of Batangas, the next serious concern is Matnog Allen, and then the ports that are frequented by foreign tourists. So kung pwede, paki-run through mo na kami. What to expect and what are the changes?
Okay. So yung po ating Matnog Allen, may queuing system na din po dyan. Ang medyo challenge lamang po dyan dahil nga yung sa nahuli pong, if you will remember, a few weeks ago, nagkaroon po ng flash flood dyan sa may Katarman, hindi po ba?
Mhm.
I just need to be apprised po, no? And I guess yung mga biyahero po natin, they will need to be apprised also kung ano na po ba ang nangyari doon sa tulay na nagiba, no? Na para po papunta doon sa papuntang Calbayog, etc. from Allen, dahil yung pong dating biyaheng Allen during that time, nire-route po natin yan sa Calbayog City dahil hindi po makadaan yung mga bihikulo po, no, from Allen going towards south, yung central and southern Leyte. So yun po ang unang challenge niyan. Pangalawa po, ang dyan po sa kasi sa San Bernardino Strait between Matnog, Sorsogon and Northern Samar po. Medyo erratic po kasi diyan yung ano no yung tidal action, pati po yung nagkakaroon po diyan kasi ng kahit walang bagyo, nagkakaroon po diyan ng mga gale warning or gale incidents, no. So nagkakaproblema po doon yung mga suspension ng biyahe. So ang hinihingi lamang po namin sa mga kababayan natin na babiyahe, on the part of PPA po, we will ensure that there will be a system in place that will be fair to everyone. Nasisiguraduhin po nating hindi magkakaroon ng insidente ng yung pong singitan dyan, and on a first come first serve basis po dyan. Ano? Ang hinihingi lamang po namin ay pasensya. At the same time po para po sa mga nagpe-prepara to plan their travels well at pumunta ng mas maaga, and then kung po pwede po mag-hedge po tayo sa oras para hindi po tayo maantala sa mga schedules natin, dahil maski po dito sa Manila, Sir Cito, na experience natin medyo ngayon ang planning mo hindi na pwedeng yung aalis ka ng mga 1.5 to 2 hours before your appointment, kailangan 3 oras na Ganon din po sa pagbiyahe, no? Lalong-lalo na po dyan sa Matnog area po.
Okay, so kung sakasakali naman, because December is never spared a typhoon, although we are praying wala naman, but in the event of some unforeseen weather disturbance, meron ba tayong provisions, funding, standby personnel para umalalay doon sa mga mai-stranded dyan sa mga pier na yan, mga ports?
Yes po, Sir Cito. As a general rule po kasi, we do not allow or we discourage people from staying at the terminals kapag may inclement weather po, no? Lalong-lalo na po kung may mga tidal warning, kasi delikado po talaga yan dahil iisipin niyo po malakas ang alon tapos nakapronta ka doon sa pier.
Nasa pier ka.
Sinasalubong mo. Talaga pong pinapaatras po natin yan. But in the instances po na talagang wala nang pupuntahan yung tao at mas peligroso po na sila ay aalis pa, we allow po our kababayans to stay at the terminals. At tayo po, we provide, in fact, may SOP na po tayo dyan, and we have our own lugaw recipe po. No? Talagang namimigay po tayo ng libleng lugaw dyan sa mga stranded, tapos namimigay din po tayo ng provisions ng water, and we make sure na kahit na ganun po sitwasyon, at least they feel comfortable at medyo hindi mabigat yung pinagdadaanan nila habang naghihintay.
Maliban sa Batangas and Matnog Allen Port, what are the other ports of concern? Because particularly those frequented by tourists, like let's say Katiklan, for instance. Meron pa bang ibang area? Kasi alam ko lang Katiklan, but then naalala ko yung sa Dumaguete, private ba yun? O meron bang government port doon?
Sa Dumaguete po, may port po tayo doon, no? Talagang that is a major PPA port po natin. In fact, for that area po sa Negros Oriental, that is our main PPA port, main PPA office.
Okay.
Ang nakikita po natin sa mga tourist arrivals po, no, or yung domestic tourists primarily, ang matataas pong volume dyan po sa Puerto Galera, and then sa also Boracay po, no, sa Katiklan, and then we also have po sa Babac sa Samal Island of Davao. Yan po talaga, marami po yan. At ganun din po ang experience niya, ano? Kasi kung minsan sakit na po talaga na kung kailan last minute tsaka babiyahe tsaka ano po, no, talagang pipila.
Yung sa Dumaguete Siquijor, GMJ, because sabi mo nga, one of your major ports yan in the Visayas, are they increasing the number of number of trips? Kasi I remember when we went there, sa umaga lang at sa hapon, meron yatang umaga papuntang Siquijor, sa hapon pabalik naman ng Dumaguete. And pag ganito bang maramihan, are there mandatory increases in the frequency?
Well, tama po kayo. Na-experience ko na po yan eh. Na papunta pong Siquijor, ano, from Dumaguete. Na-trap po kami ng isang buong araw, ano, so we had to leave the next day dahil natapos yung inspection and nakalayag na po yung barko, no? And we have already informed po yung Marina po, yung Maritime Industry Authority natin sa area na yon of the lack of vessels there. Kasi nakakapanghinayang po, napakalaki na po ng Dumaguete Port natin. Bagong-bago po yung port operations building natin doon, ano? In fact, ano po mismo pa nung during the previous administration, si President Duterte pa po mismo nag-inaugurate no sa ganung kalaki. And then even the one po sa Siquijor, bagong-bago po yung terminal din natin doon. And ang request nga po natin sa Marina sa mga ganitong sitwasyon, baka pwedeng mag-issue po ng mga special permits, ano, doon sa mga barko para madagdagan po, lalong-lalo na po yung area yan, talagang tourist hub din po kasi yan yung papuntang Siquijor, ano, from Dumaguete. So lahat po nung na-identified natin na areas na medyo high volume during holiday season, pinagbibigay alam po natin dyan from our experience doon sa Marina na ano po, mag-issue siguro ng special permits sa mga barko so that they can reroute certain vessels from other routes to more critical routes, especially during the holiday season.
Alam ko hindi mo nasakop to. This is not in your domain. But are there expected increases in the boat fare? Kasi I took the boat last year, and you know that I regularly take the boat to Mindoro, to Boracay, etc. Pero may mga nagtatanong, sir, tumaas ba ang biyahe o tataas ba ang pamasahe?
Well, as of now po, no, wala na pa naman po kaming nakukuhang abiso doon sa mga ticketing offices po, no, na may magtataas. But sometimes po kasi dahil Sir Cito, yan pong shipping charges, yung passenger fees po sa mga shipping lines natin na domestic, deregulated po yan. So sometimes mere number of days po biglang nag-aabiso yan, lalo na kung peak season po, no, nagtataas yan eh. So we should not be surprised kung magtataas po sila, but kami po kasi we have our ears on the ground. Kinakausap po natin yung mga pasahero and we bring to the attention of the shipping lines and yung pong yung government agencies po, particularly Marina, na ito yung concern ng mga pasahero. In fact, meron nga po diyan may isang experience ako na one peak holiday rush.
Yeah.
Kung kailan po holiday rush, biglang namatay lahat ng online nila, suspiciously namatay yung online ticketing system nila, tagmano-mano. So ano po ako diyan, very particular po tayo diyan, at saka kuminsan peeve po natin yan Sir Cito, hindi ba na? Parang hindi naman kami pinanganak kahapon, bakit biglang timing yan, hindi ba? So minomonitor po natin yan at sabi ko nga po, hindi na po katulad ng mga nakaraang panahon. Meron na po tayong social media and kami po sa PPA, we will be proactive in bringing this to the attention of fellow government authorities so that this will be rectified.
Okay, kahit mabilis na sagot na lang GMJ kasi alam ko meron kang appointment. But two concerns. Number one is parking. Are there sufficient parking? Dahil nung bago ka naging GM dyan sa Batangas, nakiparada na ako doon sa presinto dahil desperate na ako, wala na ako mapuntahan. And then the second is security. We're all very worried after the MSU bombing, all this disturbance because of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in Gaza. What will travelers expect? Kahit mabilisan lang, GM.
Well, unang-una po yung parking. We have ample parking po, no? Especially dyan po sa Batangas terminal natin. We have ample parking for those na mag-iiwan po ng sasakyan at sasakay na lamang po sa mga barko, no? Patawid either Mindoro o patawid papuntang Iloilo or Katiklan, ano? So we have ample parking there. In terms of security po, last week po, right after the MSU bombing, nag-issue po tayo ng direktiba sa security personnel po natin to bring up our security alertness to red, ano, from heightened. Ano pong ibig sabihin nito? Hindi naman po ibig sabihin nito na yung pong mga may hihingin tayong additional requirements sa mga kababayan natin bumabiyahe. Internal po sa atin yon. We will make sure that the processes are the same, but we will just be more vigilant, ano, than usual. At ang ibig sabihin po dito, nag-deploy po tayo ng additional security personnel, particularly K9 units po, no? We've asked for at least doubling the capacity ng K9 units natin, which are being provided by the Philippine Coast Guard. Pati po yung multiplier forces po natin ng mga private security guards, pinadagdagan po natin yan, ano? Ang gusto ko lamang pong i-mention din, Sir Cito, dahil tumataas nga po yung incidence din ng mga flu-like symptoms po at saka yung may tinatawag silang walking pneumonia po, no? Although hindi po mandated ng DOH ng bagong health protocol natin dahil nilift na nga po yung national medical emergency, we are encouraging our mga kababayans po na dadaan sa mga PPA terminals, kung maaari ay magsuot pa rin po ng face mask and then monitor and then observe po yung dating health protocols po natin na yung consistent washing of hands, pag-alcohol po, and if possible, no, I know medyo tight po yung ibang terminals natin, pero if possible, maintain social distancing para lamang pong maiwasan yung spread kung whatever virus there is that's going around now, no, whether or not it's just plain flu virus or pneumonia or even COVID, ano. Para lamang po maiwasan, yun po ang pinananawagan natin ngayong panahon ito.
Yung bang mga x-ray ninyo, papaganahin o mano-mano ang inspeksyon? Kasi may mga nagsasabing efficient yung x-ray, pero may nagsasabing iba na yung talagang chine-check yung bagahe.
Well, una po, ang ginagawa po natin dyan, lahat po ng mga terminals po natin, ano, meron na po tayong baggage x-ray. Kung maaalala nyo po, yung nakikita natin sa video, ganyan na po lahat ng baggage x-rays natin. And then initially po dadaan dyan yung mga bagahe, pero kapag meron pong suspicious dyan na mga nakalagay po sa mga gamit, talaga pong pinabubuksan yan at minamanong inspection po yan, no? Ang isa din pong babanggitin ko, Sir Cito, sa mga babiyahe, wag na pong magdala ng mga pinagbabawal na implements, halimbawa martilyo or yung mga ano po, no, mga matatalim pong bagay, mga kutsilyo. And doon po sa magbabiyahe, i-check po nila sa destination nila kung baka may mga quarantine issues sa mga meat products na pupuntahan nila or chicken products, ano. Po sa Mindoro, previously po kasi dyan, bawal po dyan yung mga pork products, whether raw or processed pork products at saka yung chicken products. Yun po.
Okay, so GMJ, maraming salamat. Thank you for mentioning that as well, because ASF is a serious problem. And many provinces and even the airlines are now repeating that message that you just shared. We hope and pray that PPA and all its personnel are blessed, protected, and healthy during the holidays, and wag masyadong ma-stress. And pag nagkataon naman na nandidini ka sa Batangas, tayo mag-inom ng kape. Thank you very much, GM.
Maraming salamat po, Sir Cito, at maraming salamat po. Palagi nyo kaming iniimbita sa programa nyo. Happy holidays po sa inyo at sa lahat po ng nanonood at nakikinig sa inyong pong programang agenda. Thank you very much po.
Okay, that's General Manager J. Santiago of the Philippine Ports Authority, and it is our public service effort to inform people. You would be surprised. There are actually so many foreigners taking boats, going through PPA facilities, Philippine ports to visit the Philippines, and we should all do likewise to experience what a great country we have. We'll go for a quick break, and when we return, we talk about a more serious, more urgent concern, but we'll do that when we return.
heartbreaking. That's how National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea spokesperson Commodore J. Tariela described the latest water cannon incident involving the China Coast Guard and Filipino vessels. On Saturday, Chinese ships launched water cannons at vessels of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. The BFAR vessels were on a regular support mission, bringing oil subsidy and grocery packs to the fisherfolk in Bajo de Masinloc.
For me, this is the most heartbreaking thing, seeing our fellow Filipino fishermen being treated that way, considering that Bajo de Masinloc does not just fall within our exclusive economic zone, but it is a high tide elevation and it generates a territorial sea, meaning that we have a territorial sovereignty over these waters.
But just a day after that incident, the PCG reported another incident in the disputed waters where Chinese vessels fired water cannons at them during a resupply mission. According to the PCG, the attack caused severe damage to the engine of ML Kalayaan. Another vessel, BRP Cabra, also suffered damage from the incident. Along with that, 2 Chinese Navy ships were reportedly observed within the vicinity of Sabina Shoal, circling the Christmas convoy civilian supply mission. Because of this, Captain Jorge de la Cruz of MV Felix Oca made the decision to turn back the convoy and return to Palawan to avoid any heightened tension. In a statement, the Atin To coalition said that if it were only up to them and the PCG, they would like to proceed with the Christmas convoy. However, they recognize and respect the expertise and experience of the captain. Despite the development, Atin To declared the mission a significant accomplishment, adding that more trips could be expected in the future. Let's discuss all the latest incidents in the West Philippine Sea on today's agenda.
Dr. Chester Cabalza is the founding president of the International Development and Security Cooperation. He currently teaches in the graduate school at the UP Department of Anthropology in Diliman. Cabalza was formerly a consultant of the World Bank and the Japan International and Cooperation Agency.
Dr. Cabalza, welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much, Cito, for having me. I'm very happy to have you, to have me in your program, of course.
Okay. It's a Monday. It's understandable.
Yeah, it happens really.
Okay. In all seriousness, what was your reaction to this whole mess we're in? Because let's start with the Christmas convoy, and then the water cannon incident, and then the hounding by Chinese military vessel. Hindi na ito fishing vessel, military vessel na ito. So some people I spoke to or was listening to were saying, bakit kailangan gawin yan? Are we antagonizing the Chinese? Is this an exercise of patriotism, etc., etc.? What's your reaction?
Okay, sana hindi na lang tinuloy, no? Basically, simple as that. But let's put it into context first. Why they tried to do that? There's the compellency strategy, trying to convey to China that perhaps you can change the behavior of the big brother in the neighbor. And I think this is an initiative coming from the civilian, because of course we've seen a top-down policy when it comes to our West Philippine Sea issue conundrum. It seems like we've done efforts coming from the military, from the Coast Guard. This time around naman, maganda naman galing naman sa mga civilian, no? And I think it was wholeheartedly decided and thought about. But of course, we've seen the normal behavior of China through their dangerous maneuvers, water cannon. Mabuti hindi sila ginamitan ng military laser grade, no? And of course, that's really harmful. And since we saw these patterns, and these things could happen really during the Christmas convoy, despite the compellency strategy that we are trying to convey to China, I wish na sana hindi na lang tinuloy. But of course, or if tinuloy nila, of course, no, even if China Coast Guard threatened them, we could have shown more how would I say it in a nice way? Sana naging mas matapang pa. Because of course this is really something that China will laugh at because tingnan nyo, you prepared for that and they doubled their efforts. And it seems like I think there is inconsistency of a narrative on our part because of course even if there are good intentions on how to propagate this unified narrative coming from us, it seems like sayang yung sayang yung effort. I think that's the problem that we've seen. There are other sophisticated strategies on how to counter China's narrative and of course yung kanilang harassment and aggression in the West Philippine Sea. I think the Christmas convoy for me is not that really effective on how to strengthen the compliance strategy towards China. I think there are other alternatives on how to do that. No, so what are these? For me, of course, the transparency strategy coming from the Coast Guard, we've seen that, and it lessened the tension and also the presence of China Coast Guard and the military militia there. Secondly, the consistency of our foreign policy that affects our security policy. That of course, this is now supported through our strategic partnerships with like-minded.
Yeah, but sorry, Professor Chester. No, I mean Dr. Chester. Let me just cut in here because I thought that when they came up with this Christmas convoy, at the very least, you will have a very strong signal of support or of opposition from the government. Kumbaga, teka, we don't like that idea. That could trigger wrong responses. Or, hey, that's a great idea. We'll back you up. We will send the Marines. We will send the Coast Guard, etc. But aside from the Philippine Coast Guard chain, I didn't really hear anything higher up, all the way to Malacanang or the DFA in terms of this is our position, yay or nay.
Okay. Well, we're trying to experiment because, of course, I think the higher ups. I mean, that includes the Malacanang, the DFA. They know about this.
Yes,
of course. It just so happened that this is initiated by civilian groups. That's the reason why perhaps it could work on our favor. But we've seen that there will be dangers that will be coming up, and we've seen one yesterday. And I think the premonition that were seen in the first place came true. And for me, sana we know that there will be repercussions on this. There will be dangers. Dalawa lang ang pwede nilang gawin, no? It's either ituloy siya or pag tinuloy nila na magkakaganito yung problema, they have sana tinuloy-tuloy na nila, no? Because in the first place, this mission was intended to increase the confidence of Filipinos, and I'm quite sure China in the first place will not allow that there will be fatal miscalculations that will happen. Because as I understand, being an analyst, if something fatal will happen there, say, for example, through death, no? May mamatay dyan, that will spark perhaps a shooting war or a conflict. And I think China will not go too much to that, because we've seen that in the past, no, they did the ramming in Reed Bank before through the fishing vessels of our fisher folks. Pero wala namang doon, wala namang namatay. Yun ang iniiwasan.
But you were saying sana hindi na lang tinuloy.
Yeah.
Is it that they should not have gone through with this, or they should not have even attempted this? Is this because President Bongbong Marcos had recently spoken to Xi Jinping and they had talked about talking more?
Mm.
Or should there really be a national decision on what position to take? Kasi what worries me here is we're now doing kanya-kanya.
Not really kanya-kanya, but for me, it's like what I told earlier, it's an experiment. Because, of course, what we've done so far, based from the different strategies coming from our government, it's really a top-down engagement. No, meaning to say
Okay.
that these were suggested by the military, by the Coast Guard, by policymakers. This time around, it's an initiative coming from civilian groups, no, to have
Yeah.
this intention to do gift giving, and of course, no, the right to explore, the right to travel around our own territory.
Mhm.
But it seems like because there is that conundrum in
Yeah.
between along that route, sea lanes, definitely we are expecting na talagang magkakaroon ng gulo. Doon yung medyo hindi napag-isipan ng mabuti. Because, say for example, the intention is very good because of course of the holidays and because of our tradition of gift giving, that's very Filipino. But you're putting danger also to your people, to the civilians.
Mm.
Remember, they are not armed, they are not trained. And definitely, you're talking of 40 people here. If something happens to them, and if really China intends to do some fatality there, and there was miscalculation, definitely it would create a lot of it would trigger conflict or war, basically, because we're talking of fatalities here. And we can and the relationship between Manila and Beijing is very fragile right now. So we cannot afford that to happen.
Okay.
Sana ang ginawa.
What should be done at this point? Because I remember twice I've spoken to Professor and former Secretary Clarita Carlos, and she has always espoused a revisiting of the memorandum of agreement between the China Coast Guard and the Philippine Coast Guard. Is this a viable option? Because
Okay.
it seems the meeting between BBM and Xi Jinping is all talk and nothing else. And then, but what's your take?
Okay. Last November 2022, I had a high-level conference through my organization. I was able to invite Derek Grossman from Rand Corporation from the US, and then Dr. Yan Yan from China, one think tank in China, and then scholars, intellectuals from Malaysia and Indonesia. There was an intense debate during the conference. And yung sinasabi po ninyo on the Coast Guard diplomacy were discussed. And sinasabi, of course, no, we have the hotlines. And during misunderstandings, Beijing doesn't pick up the phone kapag tumatawag tayo sa kanila. So, ang sinasabi natin, meron kang Coast Guard diplomacy, hindi naman ginagamit ng tama, no? So, action speaks louder than words. And the rebut of China is that we want bilateral talks with the Philippines because there are some other actors not involved in the South China Sea who are present in this region. Yun yung lagi nilang sinasabi. So what can we learn from these discussions? One, of course, we know that there is this intense competition, strategic competition coming from the US and China, and we are sandwiched in between these two superpowers. The Coast Guard diplomacy at the hotlines failed not only in the Philippines, but it also happened in the US. So meaning to say, there is a disconnect in what China is saying and doing.
Kumbaga, cannot be reached sila.
cannot be reached sila. So
Okay,
may,
so
may dapat gawin tayo doon. Ano ang dapat
okay.
gawin
Well,
natin? No? So,
hold that thought, Professor, Doctor. 'Cause we'll just go for a very quick break, and when we return, it's all yours. We'll be right back
thank you.
here
Thank
on
you.
Agenda. Welcome back to your program Agenda here on One News Cignal TV. And with us again is founding president of the International Development and Security Cooperation, Dr. Chester Cabalza, giving us insights to what should be or what can be done regarding our issues with China over the West Philippine Sea. Dr. Cabalza, you were saying, okay, failed diplomacy, the hotline to Beijing is disconnected or cannot be reached, etc. So what can be done?
Okay. Now, it's a question of the continuity of the deterrence strategy versus the compellence strategy. These are two different things, no? Because what we are doing right now is to foster and strengthen deterrence strategy through strategic partnerships we have now with Japan, Australia, Vietnam, and soon with Paris, with France. And of course, our ally is Washington. I mean, the US. Okay. And then we are modernizing our military. That's part of the deterrence strategy. And then you see the diplomatic and military dimensions are being used here as part of our instruments of power. That's good. But it seems like in the compellence strategy, where we are using unified narrative, it's good that the government is very consistent in terms of our singular narrative right now when it comes to the West Philippine Sea. That's excellent. But part of that is yung transparency strategy na ginagawa ng Coast Guard and of course itong civilian effort of Christmas convoy. But it seems like the Christmas convoy did not succeed. So what else can we do? I think it's a question of strategic communication because there is a loss of translation right now between Beijing and Manila.
So what do you mean by strategic communication? What should we be communicating?
Okay. The messaging should vary. One is we should be open with bilateral talks with Beijing because that's what they wanted. Okay, let's give them a chance. Although we've been doing that every time and then, especially during the time of the past administration, but it seems like patience is a virtue. I mean, they are behaving like that because they are a major power. So right now, they are compelling to us their narrative that this is what they want. Then through patience and constant communication with them, and perhaps we could compromise.
So, but does this work, doctor? Because you're essentially saying, "Oh, sige, if you want to talk, let's talk." But while we're
Okay.
talking, you have 130 ships lined up out
Mm,
there, and we're worried that they may be sucking up all of the
mm,
sand to build
mm.
another island.
Okay. There's a good model here. Vietnam did that. Yeah, although of course bilateral relationships between Hanoi and Beijing, no, that's centuries old. No, we're just new.
Mm.
We just
Oh,
started our headache with China in 1995.
yeah.
But
Doc, we have 2 minutes left, so I'm going to
okay,
have to make
what can
this
we do here?
quick.
Okay, we have the Vietnamese model that while they are engaging diplomatically with China, they are also strengthening their deterrence strategy. So,
Mm.
meaning to say, you can do both the compellence and the deterrence strategy. So while you are doing alliance and strategic partnerships with like-minded countries, strengthening your national security infrastructure, you should not forget that we can still have a dialogue with China. Talk to them. Our president did that during the sidelines of the APEC summit. He talked to Xi Jinping to de-escalate the tensions. We should continue doing that. We can ask our diplomats to do that. Do track 1.5 track to diplomacy through scholars and our military commanders. We can do that. So there are alternative mechanisms on how to settle.
Would that include allowing the Chinese to set up how do you call it, positions like we have allowed the Americans to do so in the Philippines?
That depends in the future because, of course, what we can do right now when we negotiate is to establish trust. What are the baseline? What baselines? What do we expect from each other? What do we want from each other based from our own
So
national interest?
yeah.
So
So
it's a process.
in other words, yes, it's a process. We have to be patient. We need to talk more, and let's see what cooks. Anyway, Doctor. Thank you very much, Dr. Chester Cabalza, for your time this morning. And you're right. This is not going to be solved in the next 5 years. It took the Vietnamese 100 years.
Yes, Sir Cito.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you very
Cabalza.
much. Thank you.
Okay, that's Dr. Chester Cabalza, founding president, International Development and Security Cooperation. And he did raise a very important point. China wants bilateral talks, and if they want to do bilateral talks, perhaps we should really work that out. And kumbaga, magkaalaman na. Okay, let's now go to our closing blessing for this week. I sought the Lord, and He answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to Him are radiant. Their faces are never covered with shame. Seek the Lord. Yan ang turo today from Psalms 34 verses 4 to 5. Thank you. I'm Cito Beltran, thanking you on this Monday morning for joining us. We hope to see you again tomorrow and through the week. And we do hope that you will all be blessed and stay healthy. God bless you. Thank you.